Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Yo, and hello. Welcome to another episode of Sneakers and Cleats. Chuck Miketinac alongside for episode
Zach
141.
Hedrick.
Yes, Zach Hedrick here, filling in. So, episode 141 coming at you. Chuck, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Zach. How are you doing?
Doing
all right.
I'm doing well. I'm 6 feet above, not 6 feet below, so that's always good.
Yes, very nice.
So, bunch to get to today. Great sports weekend on tap for us. We're going to delve into the Spurs, victorious in the preseason for the first time, getting a win over the Orlando Magic. Delve into some Cowboys a little bit and a big slate of college football. I don't know if you can tell by my shirt.
Oh, yes, we could tell.
But we'll get to that.
We're in enemy territory.
Some good games on tap here. But, Chuck, I don't have it here on the rundown, but I'm going to kind of do some audible here. But Just a little trivia here. We're also in the throes of Major League Baseball playoffs. I know we've been keeping an eye on that. We've got a Game 5 between the Dodgers and Padres.
Coming up on Fox San Antonio tomorrow night.
Yeah, that should be good, huh? And then we got a couple of teams, the Tigers and the Yankees can move on to the ALCS with wins tonight. So keeping an eye on that. But the trivia question today, so it's kind of skewed, I guess, a little bit, and I know you can see the answer right now.
I can?
Maybe on this phone, but anyway.
I won't look. Go ahead.
It's kind of skewed because, I mean, MLB postseason history, it's only been paid attention to, I guess, here in probably since the 70s, 80s, where it's like actually recorded. There's a bunch of postseason history, that precedes that, of course. But on this day in 2011, the first recorded walk-off grand slam was hit in MLB postseason history. Who was the player that hit that home run? So we'll let everybody ponder that question.
I don't know. There's so many twists and turns in that series. If it was it Rangers Cardinals?
Yes,
Okay.
it would appear that way.
Dude, that was such an epic series. I know. Bad memories for you. Bad memories for me too. Because what a great team to get to cover that year and the year before too.
It was a great memory getting up. Yeah. Yes.
And that game was it Game 6 that was just.
Game 6 was in
where Josh won it a couple times.
Game 6, yes.
And then didn't.
Well, yeah, not to still bitter about it, but that wound was salved over when they got the World Series this past season. Yes, Game 6 was the one in St. Louis where Rangers were one strike away twice, and Josh Hamilton did his heroics in extra innings, only for he who should not be named, David Freese, did his thing.
What about Lance Berkman? That was the one good thing I remember about that. Was like, okay, at least Lance Berkman got a ring. And I think David Freese, did he go to high school in Corpus? I mean, he's got a Texas connection too, but I'm not really sure what that was.
Or somewhere, he does have a Texas. It might be Metroplex too.
Maybe.
Anyway, I think that's where maybe he stays now, which is kind of weird. But anyway, again, just to restate the trivia question, the first recorded walk-off grand slam in postseason history hit on this date in 2011. Who was the player that hit that home run? We'll revisit that later on in the podcast. But first, let's get up to the Spurs, getting their first win of the preseason, 107-97 over the Orlando Magic. Chuck, what were your takeaways from this game? It seemed like a little slow to start. This is a team obviously still figuring it out a little bit with some new pieces, still learning how to play with each other. But what were some of your takeaways from watching last night?
Well, early on in the first quarter, it looked like I thought Victor Wembanyama was trying to make plays that would look really good on Instagram or Twitter or Sports Center. And
a little bit of hero ball.
Yeah, I don't think that the head coach was real happy with that and then pulled him off the court. But then, he played pretty well the rest of the night, I thought, although he did try to do something like that similarly in the third quarter. But
second quarter, he picked it up.
Yeah, the guy that popped to me was 5.
Stephon Castle.
Because, he's obviously not the biggest guy, only 19 years old, obviously a first-round pick. But, I've said this 2 days in a row. I don't know how to describe it any other way in that he just doesn't look like the moment is too big for him, right? The ball flows better with not only him, but, the rest of his teammates when he's out there on the floor. But, he just doesn't seem to make bad passes. Everything seems to be the right pass. He seems to be a play ahead in his head. Like if he's going to drive the ball, well, okay, if it's not there, I know exactly where I'm going to kick it. he just seems like he's one step ahead of everybody else on the floor. And I thought early on in that game last night, Zach, that, the Spurs as a group, the unit they had on the floor looked a step slower than Orlando.
They were kind of getting beat inside a little bit.
Yes. And so when Castle was on the floor, it just looked more like basketball.
I know Don was impressed by Castle as well, just kind of similar things that you were saying. Seems to make the right play all the time, just being in the right place. The ball is moving a little bit more, and he doesn't look like a rookie, which is astounding.
And I think what's good on a night like that, when you think you see it with your own two eyes, and then you look at the stats, and you see, wow, okay, he led the team in scoring, and his plus-minus was better than anybody else on the team. So whatever was reflected in what I thought I was seeing, I thought was reflected in the line score too, and in the box score. So, I don't know. He certainly made an impression on me. Yeah, I know it's preseason, and it's only game 2 of the preseason, and we know that Orlando pulled a lot of their dudes off the court after that first quarter, but still.
Right. 17 points for Stephon Castle on 4 of 9 shooting, 2 rebounds and 4 assists to round out his kind of line score. So, an excellent showing for him. I know Pop glowed about him once again, just about how hard-nosed he plays. I guess that first taste in that preseason game, he realized, these are NBA guys, and, I may have to finish a little bit harder at the rim. Second game, a lot better, of course, and we got to see our first action of the CP3 Wemby duo. What do you think of that combination?
Well, I mean, obviously Chris Paul's made a career out of being able to pass the basketball, but yeah, they had a couple of really nice plays. I'm just going to be curious to see how they end up divvying up the minutes at the end of all this. They've got a lot of guys, I think, that are similar in talent and ability, but I think the thing that stood out to me last night is, okay, Castle can play, but the thing that we see more than anything else is that he plays well, and he plays well with others. And I think that's the big thing. It's how do you play when there are other guys around you, if the faces are changing. I don't know that Castle's game is going to have that much variance based on who's on the floor. I really thought that in a limited sample size that he really stood out last night.
Right. Of course, everybody was waiting to see the first lob from CP3 to Wemby, and we got that, I believe, late in the first quarter, kind of brought down the house a little bit. Limited minutes, of course, a little bit of run as these guys get their legs under them, in the on-ramp to the regular season. Coach Pop, of course, raved about Stephon Castle. He was also raving just about CP3 and the wealth of knowledge he brings, especially to a young team like this. Here's Coach Pop on CP3.
It feels... he's so wise, and he's got so much experience. Sometimes I get mesmerized just listening to him say things to players, and I should have thought of that kind of thing. But he mentors them well, and he does it the right way. He makes them feel good about themselves. He's great.
So obviously a great resource to have, and somebody who's going to, I imagine, help Stephon Castle a lot. Not that he needs much help, it looks like, just from in the short sample size that we've seen.
Yeah, there's some other things in that game last night, right? Wemby's catch radius is stupid. I mean, that first lob, he's, just throw it in the area code, right? And then there was a play, too, where somebody was going to launch the ball out of bounds. It should have been in the 10th row, and he got a hand on it. I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
I mean, so they're going to have some fun with that, I would think. I think they're going to play a little differently too, or they're going to have to when Chris Paul and Wemby are on the floor, because it's not like either one of those guys are gazelles getting up and down the court.
Right.
But also too, I think the further this goes along, we're going to find out that there's probably going to be a really nice seat at the table for Chris Paul at the head coaching ranks somewhere when this is all said and done, if he so chooses. I mean, what hasn't he done? What doesn't he know? You can tell he sees the floor like few others, even at his age.
Just I think that was something else that came out in the GM survey recently. It's just like, who, out of the current players currently playing in the NBA, who would you see being the next head coach? And I think some like 30% or maybe even 40, it was like Chris Paul. Yep. So
Right.
that not a big leap there that you would think.
Absolutely.
Wemby obviously making some great plays as well. 11 points, most of them coming in the second quarter. 4 of 15 shooting, got off to a bad start there, but still made some highlight plays. The lob from CP3, he also had a pump fake, and then he takes 2 ginormous steps and he's slamming it home.
I think how lethal like a Euro step from that guy's going to be. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's a Euro plus, add whatever continent you want to, throw in there on top of it. Yeah, he had a couple of really nice moves where he deked 2 guys and he didn't finish the shot, but like that's going to come because that's going to be almost impossible to stop.
It's going to come, yeah. And the combination between CP3 and Wemby is coming once again once they start playing some regular minutes and find out that rotation. Here's both Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama on how they played with each other for the first time last night.
We just trying to figure it out. The league, I'm sure a lot of y'all have been around a long time. Used to be a month-long training camp. We had 3 practices, 3-4 practices, you know what I mean? So you got to figure it out on the go. And I think that's what's cool about playing with somebody as good and smart as Vic. We was running out to the court at halftime. We were talking, and he was like, "You're going to see quick, I learn fast." So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Felt very natural and very it felt like it was the good play, and he's making a lot of good plays. So it feels really good to play with him, and we try to in this preseason we're gonna try to experiment as much as we can on that pick and roll. That's for sure.
So I think that was something else that Victor kind of touched on right there. The ball, when Chris Paul is running it, the ball is finding other players and fast. It's getting dished out to Julian Champagny, who looked good from shooting behind the arc. And, when he gets hot, watch out.
Yeah, that was the one thing I noticed too with Castle. Like when he passes the ball, man, there's some zip on it and it's chest high. Everything just flows well. With some of these guys, obviously they have gifts, but that has to serve the Spurs well going forward.
I know you mentioned Castle, but besides from him and Victor, who else to you maybe stood out in this game? Anybody else catch your eye?
No, I mean, those were the 2 really, there are a couple of guys I think that can play. I think it's interesting. You see, like sometimes when, the way that they were moving the ball, sometimes you're thinking, okay, well, that looks different, and, who's not playing right now? Why does this look different? Why do I want to see more of that? And I think the coaches are spitting that kind of stuff too. Obviously, it's way too early to be making any final
lot of looks.
assessments. And,
sure.
Because they look like trash in that first quarter. I mean, Orlando ran them off the floor, but after that point, they did a damn good job, especially keeping the other team out of, putting the ball in the hole.
Right. A couple guys just for me, I really thought Sandro Mamukelashvili, just and Pop touched on him post-game, just the way he moves without the ball in his hand.
Sees
that
the
European
court.
style just moves and passes the ball well. Somebody asked Pop, why isn't what does Sandro have to do to play more minutes? And Pop was just, what, are you his agent? So So I mean, you really would like to see him play some more, I think.
He's earned it, it looks like.
And then Blake Wesley as well on the
you're
defensive
right.
side.
And Branham, those guys move differently. You're right. I mean, now that I think about it a little harder, I just, again, I hate to gush because it is just a preseason
Sure,
game, but
it is.
It was like I couldn't take my eyes off of 5 because I was like, God, why doesn't everybody play like him?
Yeah.
There's max effort every time. He's got a little grit to him, and just wonder what he's going to look like in 4 or 5 years.
Right. Chris, we got anything on the chat at this point? Okay, feel free
Don't
to.
hassle the Hoff, man.
Well, I know.
Tigers are doing good. His Tigers are doing
He's
well.
keeping an eye on Detroit.
Yeah.
So
need
today,
to make sure that you guys activate Jay Young for the next round, man. I'm telling you. Hopefully the ankle's okay.
Up next for the Spurs, they have their final preseason home game. Spurs hosting the Utah Jazz coming into town on Saturday. You can watch that one on the CWSA, and then they head out on the road for 2 games with the Heat, and then wrapping it up for the preseason schedule against Houston. That one on Fox SA next week, so we'll be keeping an eye on that one. So, again, we will move on to Los Vaqueros, the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. There we
Los
go.
Vaqueros.
What Jerry always has his saying. He turns to the camera and gives his heartfelt message. I believe in broken Spanish,
Yes,
you know,
a
to
little wink at the
a little
end.
wink.
Yes.
But I'm sure it's very well received. Of course, San Antonio right in the smack center
Absolutely.
of Cowboys country. This weekend, pretty big game, Chuck. 3:25 on, once again, Fox SA. Cowboys, they got to win a home game, and it's going to be a tough battle with the Detroit Lions, coming in. I mean, Dave Campbell, you know what you're going to get in his squad. It was a close game last year, 20-19. Of course, everybody's going to remember the ineligible, did he report? Did he not report?
On to the next. Worked out well for everybody. Everybody makes the playoffs, and then you go from there, right?
Lions favored in this one by 3. The over-under 52.5, highest out of all of the games this weekend in the league. Where do you see this game being won or lost?
Well, in the trenches, obviously, because during the McCarthy era, stopping the run has been a problem. Although, kudos to the Cowboys for being shorthanded at the defensive line position, and then, the last couple weeks,
They
holding
found a
the
way.
opposition to under 200 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, Detroit's averaging 151 yards a game on the ground. So, their offense is really, really good, but I would imagine the game plan is going to be sort of like last week. Try to do what you can to patch up the holes that you have maybe in the middle of your defensive line or on the defensive line in general, I should say. And then ball control on offense. I think the Cowboys possessed the ball maybe about 5 minutes more than the Steelers did the other night on News 4. So I think that has to be the game plan, but I don't envy you, dude. It seems like you get to go to all the games that, you're going to have to walk into possibly a surly locker room, although the Cowboys may be better than any team on the planet with dealing with hard losses and making their guys come out and kind of face the heat, as it were.
We'll see. I mean, it seems like the same guys are stepping up and they may be kind of getting at the end of their fuse, on things like that. You can obviously tell DeMarcus Lawrence was after, I think, the Ravens and Saints game. It's like, hey, we got to stop playing Little League football.
Yeah.
And, he was not happy. And, you can get some good sound from D-Law.
Maybe they'll get some dudes back, I mean, look with Deron Bland, right? And
Possibly. I know.
Yep.
Kalen Carson, full practice
maybe
yesterday.
Micah?
Possibly Micah, I would think. Todd Archer was just tweeting out earlier, did some light rehab work for his high left ankle sprain Thursday, looking like he will miss his second straight game, though, according to Archer.
Okay.
So, he's always going to, slam his fist on the table and stamp his feet, and Parsons is going to try and play if he thinks he can give it a go.
And I think with that said, I hope that the Cowboys at least consider the possibility of letting him go if he wants to play, because it's an ankle sprain, right? I mean, I know those hurt and they're sore and they swell up and all that, but, he's going to have, unless they're thinking about, they got San Francisco and then the bye, or then the bye and San
Bye
Francisco?
and then San Francisco.
Okay, yeah. So,
It's a pretty salty stretch of the schedule, yeah.
Right? Tape it up, and if, at least give it a go.
Right.
I get the other side of it too, right? If he can't, for whatever reason, play like he's capable of playing,
Not risk it,
with a
rest
sprained
up.
ankle, then and you make him one of the guys that you put on the active roster that day, that makes it very, very problematic for not only the defensive coaches, but also the special team coaches as well.
Yeah, we touched on whether or not Michael will play. The Friday designation going to be very interesting. I think you're right. This game is going to come down to the trenches, whether the Cowboys can shore up along the defensive front and try and just plug some holes and then make Jared Goff beat you. But, of course, Jared Goff coming off a pretty good game the last time they were out there.
I'd say.
And you touched on Detroit's offense being very well earlier in the week. Actually, yesterday, Mike McCarthy also giving some verbal bouquets to the Detroit Lions offense.
It's good offense. I think ball distribution. I mean, just the way they've done it. I think that definitely they're multiple in the run and the pass, and I think that's what you want. And you can see it building over the last couple of years. So, and they've done a good job. With the variations of the concepts that they've been living in. And like I think, most importantly, when they're playing fast, the efficiency that they particularly played. I mean, you can't play any better than the last time they lined up offensively. But very, very impressive.
Top 4 defense.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll touch on them. But, yeah, as you mentioned, it's an offense that has a lot of weapons. So who do you try and stop first? Of course, it's got to start and stop with the run game. I know they've looked better against the Giants and the Steelers, but it's not exactly a rushing tech that you're going to write home about. So who do you see, just maybe trying to, again, it's a patchwork up front with that defensive line.
It is. I mean, and if they can do that 3 weeks in a row, then, maybe we're starting to see that they're onto something, right?
Yeah.
Because the fact that they've ham and egged so well with all of these guys hurt kind of reminds me of what the Texans are doing too, although the Texans are a lot more impressive because of how they've handled their injuries too and still gone out and achieved at a high level. I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a real struggle for the Cowboys to win, but if they do, it's get out the anointing oils.
Yeah, they can really take a step here. I mean, it's kind of where the rubber meets the road for the defense. Have you actually fixed the issues that y'all have glaringly had at home against the Saints and the Ravens of stopping the run? If you do it here, then that's, it's a step in the right direction.
You'd have thought, God, if they'd gotten to this point and won 3-0 on the road, what their record would be. I mean, it's
right.
what a goofy start to the year.
It's almost kind of the inverse of last year.
Yeah.
So, is this a game, do you think? I mean, Dak said it last week. He doesn't believe he has to play Superman football, over these next few weeks with the guys that need to step up. Do you feel like maybe this might be the game where he has to?
Yes. And, for everything that he did to go win that football game at the end, it's like we can't have the turnovers like we had last week. I mean, you do that against this team and you'll get your ass kicked.
You'll get paid for it. It'll be interesting to see if Tolbert can be consistent with his output, because the Steelers obviously shaded CeeDee Lamb that whole game, and you imagine that's going to be the game plan for most defenses against the Cowboys going in, just because it's like that's all they have really at this point with no run game. Rico Dowdle did show something against Pittsburgh last week, and if they can have some sort of success with that again during this game, it should hopefully open some things up. But Tolbert, Turpin, Ferguson, those guys are going to need to have a game in order for maybe some balls and some windows to open up for CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, and Sneaky 9 had 5 catches too, man. I mean, that guy,
he's come along.
I mean, he's really won me over, man. I mean, talking about somebody that nobody thought anything of, especially me. And each and every week, it's just like this guy he's really a nice find. And kudos to McCarthy for allowing him the vision to grow, because obviously McCarthy saw it right away.
We talked about the Cowboys need to stop the defense. Here was Mike McCarthy on that topic and just the improvements and what they'll need to focus on against Detroit.
I just think it's like anything, just playing faster with more confidence, how it's tied together, and disciplining your gaps. At the end of the day, it's, everybody has a responsibility. You got to play to the man next to you, and then you got to have the overlap. And we need to be better in the overlap, and that's the pursuit. The pursuit and finish. Our hits on the ball went up last week, so we need to continue to build on that, because it's just like anything. We've been extremely productive here in takeaways, and we invest a lot of time in that. So I just think we've taken steps in that direction the last 2 weeks, and it just really comes down to the discipline of that group. It's gotten better.
All right, so Cowboys and Lions on Fox SA, 3:25 Sunday. Be there, be square. Lions favored by 3, Chuck. Who you picking, and what do we got as far as the score?
I think the Lions win and cover.
Okay, so
I can see that being a field goal game.
Gotcha.
Again, whatever I say, do the opposite. I don't gamble, and I don't encourage it either.
And the last several...
The damn line is too close every week. It's very astonishing.
Right. I mean, in the last few times these teams have gotten together, I think the last 5-6 games, it's ended up being a one-score affair. So, I expect another tight ball game up there in Jerry World on Sunday. Could, as you said, come down to a last-second field goal. If it's tied near the end and the Cowboys have the ball last, that bodes well, just because you've got a guy in Brandon Aubrey who can – boot it from midfield on the wrong side of midfield and give you a chance. So I'm with you. I think, I don't know. It's almost a pick 'em for me, where it's just kind of like I don't know which Cowboys team we're going to get on Sunday. But yeah, the difference for them between 4-2 going into a bye week and 3-3 with San Francisco staring down their barrel. It's like I think they might empty the tank on this one and try and get to that 4-2
That's the
mark.
hope. I mean, I think Jeff Traylor said it best this week when talking about losing before your bye, and that you have to listen to half a month how bad you are. And it really kind of summed it all up for me. Like, yeah, it's not just a week off, man. It's a half a freaking month.
Yeah, it's going to stick in your craw a little bit. So don't want to be remiss if we did not mention the Texans, a really good ball club through the first month and a half of the season. They've got, remind me again, this weekend, they've got another noon kick.
On the road at New England. But I think the thing that's kind of blows me away with them is, okay, so they're going to be without Nico Collins with a hamstring for at least a month.
Still plenty of weapons.
Yeah, he scores a touchdown when he dings the hamstring on that play. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they've managed to sort of juggle these injuries with relative ease as they sit here with one loss on the season. And to that point, the fact that they've got a top 6 offense and a top 4 offense is really hats off to the entire organization, what they're doing and, gaining steam. And yes, they've had a ton of penalties, although they knocked them down to 7 last week.
Step in the right direction.
But yes, I mean, if they start cleaning this stuff up, and they will the longer the season goes along. And so again, you lead the league in penalties, and yet here you are with all this other stuff. I mean, they're
4-1 record.
Something else. If they stay even remotely healthy, and we talked about how good they were last year when they were banged up. Mm-hmm. So all of those tried and true formula things, I mean, we thought they were going to be really good this year. I had them going a really long way, and they sure are setting themselves up nice for some good things at the end of the year.
And not sure what the Joe Mixon running back injury situation is with him, but you would think that they're close to maybe getting him back. But WOAI has been playing well in his absence. So, I mean, again,
and
like
Cam
you said,
Akers
they're
too,
finding
right?
they're finding a way, and Cam Akers as well. So, of course, when you got C.J. Stroud throwing around the pill and making good decisions, he made some questionable ones last week. But in the end of the game, how that clock sequence went with between them and Buffalo was kind of like, what is going on?
Right.
But a win's a win, and they're looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Just the way New England, as you said on Sunday, not what it used to be when you go into Foxborough.
No, that's exactly right. But I don't know, man. It's still that's a still tough place to play, and you're going to get their best effort defensively for sure.
Chris, we still get on the chat over there. Nothing in, no questions or anything. All right, moving on to our final topic before we get out of here. Big college football Saturday. I mean, we're coming off a crazy one last week with all these upsets. I mean, Tennessee falling, Alabama losing to Vandy. I mean, everybody just keeps talking about, man, what a great weekend to just sit back and take it all in. Now we get the one that everybody had circled before the season started. Got a few games listed on here, of course. Texas, Oklahoma, and the Red River rivalry up in Dallas at the Venerable Cotton Bowl. I don't think it gets any better than that atmosphere, surrounded by the State Fair. 2:30 kickoff. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So, do you have any? Have you? I know it's been a while since you've gone up and covered.
No,
Red River shootout
because of the amount of attention that this rivalry has certainly earned. Not one of my favorite things to go to. It would almost be like I'd have to have a dog in the hunt, right? Although my daughter went to Texas, but still, having gone to OU. Like, I would imagine that's a pretty big thrill to watch a game there or to play in this game. And I'm just a little surprised. I mean, maybe you are too. The spread is what it is. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. But this is why I don't bet, because somebody knows something we don't.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, fully expect Quinn Ewers to play. And even, barring that he has rust or something like that, or, you never want it to happen, but if something should happen, you got no drop-off in Arch Manning coming in, and Sark has mentioned that. It's just like there's full confidence in Arch Manning if he has to come in and play in this game, which could be, something stressful for the Oklahoma defense just because Quinn can make some plays with his legs, but Arch even has more playmaking ability with his legs. So we'll see what happens there. It should be another knockdown, drag-out fight. The spread is way too high, I think. I don't know why. I don't know what games they're watching out there in Vegas, but
the shadow knows, as they say.
I guess. So we'll find out. But I'm sure the Uber Texas fans are thinking, it's gonna be heading to another blowout. I don't see it happening that way. It should be another.
Never does.
Should be another one score game, I would think.
And when's the last time Texas blew them out?
It was that 49-0 a couple years ago, but that's when Oklahoma had Dylan Gabriel go down with an injury, and you had Davis Bevel running the Wildcat, which we all know how that worked out,
Right.
which
You
led
know-
to that
you know-
49-0.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember. Well, I don't remember that game, but again, I think they'll have more interest in it this year, right? Obviously, because Texas is the number one team in the land, and
Yeah.
Oklahoma's going to be trying to knock them off.
and
their
Texas
perch.
has tons of weapons on offense. I mean, all over the field. You got Isaiah Bond, Golden, the Houston transfer. DeAndre Moore has come on with Arch Manning passing to him. You got Gunnar Helm at tight end. Of course, the running back position, they've been banged up, but you also got Jaden Blue, Wiesner, I think is his name, the guy behind him. So it's just like you got playmakers all over. Now, you also had a bunch of guys leave from Texas and go to the NFL, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, but it's still a loaded group. Maybe not as explosive as last year, but it's a game that Oklahoma's defense is going to have its handful, but the defense is OU strength this year, so which has kind of been the flip from years past. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
of course,
bring it on.
Michael Hawkins making his first start in the Red River rivalry, but his daddy played in this game, so he kind of knows what this atmosphere is all about. So I'll be locked in at 2:30, and we'll see how that one pans out. But we also have some other great games. Ohio State visiting Oregon, conference game. Usually we don't see this game until playoff time, but here it is smack dab in the middle. That's going to be a fun game. Should be maybe a bunch of points if both teams play it well. And then also at the same time, you need to have the dual monitor situation going on. Ole Miss and LSU playing each other at night. So that's going to be another fun SEC showdown in the nightcap. And then you got UTSA and Rice as well. They're kicking off. UTSA looking for its first conference win. How do you see that one playing out a little bit? UTSA favored on the road, not by much, but UTSA still trying to just, kind of, I feel, put it all together, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Looking like Richard Oliver would say, looking for some mojo, right? Like it just hasn't quite happened for them yet. But I know we were kind of spitballing this around the other day. It's like, are all these games now must win for UTSA? I mean, we talked about all the hype at the beginning of the year. Like, they put up on the bulletin board, that, hey, we're going to run the table. One of the goals is to run the table and then, get a shot at playing in the playoff at the end of the year. So, I don't know. This feels like a must-win game and a prove-me game. Like, you got to go in there and do some damage against Rice. And, their defense, I wasn't aware that they've done so well playing behind the line of scrimmage this year in terms of sacks and tackle for losses. So, I don't know, man. I just feel like these games going forward, every single one of them feels like a must-win for me.
It's a big one, yeah, for sure. So that one kicking off at 6 o'clock over at Rice Stadium. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one as well. Don't have it listed here, but I think K-State, Colorado, kicking off in the 9 o'clock hour there in Boulder. That one's going to be interesting. It got a potential to be a wacky game, I feel like. So
it always is, right? It's
that
the made for TV Buffaloes.
Yes, that'll be interesting. That will just about wrap it up. To quickly revisit our trivia question before we get out of here, Chuck, I know, who do you have in Game 5 between the Dodgers and the Padres?
Well, I hope it's the Padres, but it's,
Game 5 in Los
Yeah,
Angeles.
I'll go
Dodger
with-
Blue gets the
I'll
home
go
crowd.
with the Dodgers, therefore I will jinx the Dodgers.
There you go.
Yes, because it's always the opposite of what I say.
Reverse it. So there you
Yes.
go. To give the answer to our trivia question, on this day, first MLB postseason grand slam being hit by Nelson Cruz of the Texas Rangers.
I don't
So
remember
is
that being a walk-off, though. Really?
walk-off grand slam, I guess. So that had to have been maybe, I don't know if that had to have been in the ALCS. I think that was maybe against the Tigers or the Yankees. I think it was the Tigers in 2011.
I just remember late in the year, I took the whole family. We went up to Arlington that year, and they were losing badly to Josh Beckett and the Red Sox. And I want to say 7 or 8 to nothing. And then they came back, and my son Cade, God bless him, I don't remember how old he was, 12 or 13. And he's like, Dad, I got to go to the bathroom. Dad, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like, okay, fine. So we took him to the bathroom right out there in left field. And while he's in there going to the bathroom, and freaking Nelly Cruz hits a grand slam to come back and seal the game. I'm like, dude. He's like, what happened? Oh, you
Catch
jinxed it.
the highlights later,
Yes.
right on the ride home.
So, yes.
Well, should be a great sports weekend. That's going to wrap it up for episode 141 of the episode of the Sneakers and Cleats. Chuck, anything else on the way out?
Nope. Looking forward to a big weekend of college football, and more importantly, I shouldn't say more importantly, but the baseball that's going on too. And then these NFL games are just getting bigger and bigger too, right? I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Cowboys can do this weekend, and hopefully they surprise me and come out with a W.
All right, that sounds good. That's going to wrap it up for us on the way out. Enjoy the games, everybody. Be sure to download and rate wherever you get your podcast for the Sneakers and Cleats. And on the way out, we're going to leave you with a little outro music. Have a good weekend, everybody.